Hello and welcome to this preview of the annual meeting of the EBRD. With me is Sir Suma Chakrabarti, who's the president of the EBRD. Welcome.
Thank you.
And the meeting this year is in Sarajevo. So why did you pick Sarajevo?
Well, first of all, Sarajevo put itself forward, nominated itself for our annual meeting. It's very popular, actually, to host our annual meetings generally amongst our countries of operations because it's a way of marketing the country, what it's doing well, the challenges it has, the investment opportunities for businesses. And Sarajevo, Bosnia put itself forward, and we were very pleased our board agreed it.
Okay, because how important is the Southeast Balkans to the EBRD?
Look, it's enormously important. If you just look at just Bosnia and Herzegovina to start with, I mean, we've invested over the years something like 2.2 billion euros, 155 projects, just in that quite small country. And then if you look at the Western Balkans as a whole, I think it's about 11.5 billion euros over the years. Last year, a record 1.1 billion euros in that region. Very important for EBRD, but also for Europe, frankly. I mean, because this is a region that has quite clearly chosen the EU destination as its destination of choice. In order to be able to join the EU one day, these countries need to make a number of reforms in a wide variety of sectors, and EBRD can help with that. So we invest, but we're also helping them shape some of their reforms, implement those reforms in order to make investments even more worthwhile in those countries.
Okay.
So this is a region that is, I think amongst our top recipients in per capita terms of EBRD investment.
Okay, so what are going to be the burning issues on the agenda?
Well, as always, at every annual meeting, there'll be focus on results. So how did the EBRD do in the last last few years? We've had pretty record numbers for the last 2 or 3 years now. Last year we invested about 9.5 billion euros. And that's a very high number. That's going to be one focus. Can we keep that up? Can we show the transition impact, the record transition impact levels that we've achieved in recent years? Secondly, I think it'll be the strategic agenda. First question, how can we optimize delivery in our existing countries of operations? This isn't just a quantity game. Of course, we want to invest more in those countries, but also quality. Can we do even more in terms of raising the quality of what we're doing in each of these countries? So that's the first agenda.
Okay.
Then there'll be a discussion of, for example, how much capital do we have available still? Where is EBRD's place in the international financial architecture? And therefore, if we have enough capital and we're still doing more in our existing countries of operation, could we use some of that capital to expand gradually to sub-Saharan Africa? And we would like a green light from our shareholders, not to take a decision to do that, but to study whether it's worth doing.
Okay. Well, we'll come back and talk about that in a few minutes. But another theme that's sort of very relevant to the EBRD is this whole issue of middle income transition. And I mean, first of all, can you explain what that problem is?
Well, I think people have talked about the middle income trap and the middle income transition in a number of different ways. For me, the best way to sum it up is essentially what makes for an effective and sustainable modern market economy. And that is what we're trying to do with these countries of operation that we work in, nearly all of whom are middle income countries. And they suffer from a variety of traps, if you like, depending on where they are in that spectrum. So to give you some sense of the sort of things we think are required, first of all, we think it's very, very important for these economies to be green. And this is an area we specialize in. We're probably the leading multilateral bank on green economy investments. So that's an area we push very hard. Secondly,
because just on that one, I mean,
Yeah.
you have been criticised for lending money to old energy projects, haven't you? I mean, has the focus shifted now much more away from sort of oil industry and?
Well, certainly oil we're not doing at all. Gas pipelines, yes. I think it's important to diversify the sources and of supply for Europe and other places. And so, yes, we finance the Trans-Adriatic pipeline, the Trans-Anatolian pipeline. These are big gas projects. Yes, we have, but we also are very big in renewables. If you look at the renewable investments we've made in many countries, we're financing the world's the biggest solar park in Africa, which is in Egypt, for example. So this is very big, and we have a target of reaching 40% of our investments in the green economy space by 2020. In fact, we got to 43% in 2017. We're 36% last year, hopefully 38% this year. So this is a big theme of what we think these economies should look like. We also think there are other aspects: inclusion, governance, integration, resilience. So many aspects of what we call transition qualities.
All right, now traditionally development banks are looked at as sort of lending to infrastructure projects, but you do a lot on at the EBRD with SMEs, is that right? Yeah, so tell us why you've taken that route.
We've taken a view that if you look through economic history, the development of all economies has had as its backbone the SME sector. So very few economies have sustainably grown in the long term without having an SME sector to speak of that flourishes. You can have spurts of growth through dominant sectors only, but if you want to sustain that growth, you've really got to build up the SME sector. And you can look at advanced economies like Italy or Japan, that's very, very obvious, but you can also look at middle income countries like we operate in, and that's fundamentally important. So we've invested heavily in SMEs in a number of different ways, sometimes direct,
yes,
but sometimes through the local banking system.
Yes, because it's difficult to identify them.
Sometimes it is.
For you to be involved in such small...
Yeah, we don't have the human resources, frankly, the staffing that would allow us to look at every single SME ourselves. But what we can do is use the local banking system. They're there on the ground. We can provide them with the capability so they can make the assessments of SMEs. We can have targeted credit lines, whether it's for green economy, for women in business, for energy efficiency, all sorts of different types of credit lines through local banking system. We also, again, unusually compared with other multilaterals, we don't just have a main office in each capital of each country we operate in. We have smaller offices in regional offices. So, take Egypt, for example. We have an office in Alexandria, another one coming up in Asyut. These are all SME focused on advisory services to SMEs.
Okay, so Suma, we'll leave it there and we'll come back and talk about strategy in just a minute.